What's going on, Washington Commanders Nation? It's your boy Rio Robinson, back with the latest and greatest on the Rambling with Rio YouTube channel, where we ramble about the Washington Commanders. It is Tuesday, January 7th, so you know what time it is. Me and my guy, NFL insider Lake Lewis Jr., who covers the Washington Commanders. We got to talk about it. The ticket has been punched, sixth seed has been clinched, and we did it in the most Washington fashion ever. How you doing this morning, Lake?
I'm good, man. How are you doing up there?
I'm doing great, man. We got a lot of snow on the ground. The sun is out right now, hopefully to get some of that out the way. Hopefully we don't get hit too hard again over the weekend. How you living on that side?
Man, we got a big ice storm down here, so yeah, it's that time, but hopefully this weekend I won't be part of the snow festivities. It'll be hot, nice and hot in Florida.
Yeah, man, it's the North Pole around these parts, man. Y'all better hop on that plane and head down to Tampa because Washington has a playoff game in Tampa Bay, a team with rich playoff history that involves both of us. We're going to get to that in just a second. We got to start with Sunday's game. You couldn't have put it a more Washington script out there than the way that Sunday took place. We saw how crazy the first game with Dallas was in Washington, and we got right back to it in Arlington, Texas this weekend in Jerry World. What were your initial thoughts and reactions coming out of that one?
Man, I'm not gonna lie to you. About 2:30, I thought of you, and I thought, man, it's gonna be ugly on Tuesday if we got to talk about this team coming down here and laying an egg the way it looked.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, they didn't deserve to win the football game.
Hell no.
They pulled it out. That's what they do. Kudos to them.
Mm-hmm.
But man, you were supposed to go into Dallas and step on Dallas's third stringers. That's basically who was playing.
Mm-hmm.
And it just never matriculated. It always seemed like whatever Dallas dialed up worked. It seemed like, there was no pass rush on the defense. They couldn't create turnovers. Everything that we've seen about this team on the bad side reared its head again in the final game of the season, the most important game of the season. And I truly believe, Rio, that what was going on was they were having the scores up. I think some of the guys were seeing that Green Bay was losing to Chicago pretty much for most of that game.
So they were taking it easy.
They were taking it easy. Some guys you could tell mentally were checked out because the effort was not there that you've seen in over the year, So for my money, I thought guys were just like, we're going to be the sixth seed regardless, and it just didn't work. But then when you saw Chicago come back, and it was like, damn, we got to score here, and that's what they did. So give them credit for winning the game and finding a way to win. Marcus Mariota, great football game for him. Terry McLaurin. The irony is he broke the franchise record for touchdowns. And how did he do it, Rio? He caught the ball
with his hands on the final play of the season for the team, man.
Yeah, he caught it with his hands. That's what you do. So, yeah, man. But I thought of you because I was like, man, if they were to lose this game, what do you say? You can't save them anymore. So I'm a little concerned heading down to Tampa this weekend. I really am.
I really do hope it was a case of we took our opponent for granted because we got our eyes on the prize. We're thinking about playoff week 1. We're thinking about remaining healthy for the playoffs because it feels like Mike McCarthy and Mike Zimmer, they might have our number a little bit because we couldn't get anything going offensively. We're dropping passes. Zacchaeus is dropping passes. Terry's dropping passes, which is uncharacteristic of him. Jaden was not able to find any rhythm, and I'm glad they got him up out the game. In the first after the first half ended, he had his Bluetooth in, and he was from the sideline being a cheerleader for Marcus Mariota. I love the team chemistry, love the culture. We have no running game outside of unless Jaden runs. Our running backs are doing virtually nothing at this point.
Yeah, and it's surprising and it's alarming at the same time. And I just think what we've seen over the last few weeks, even though this team's going in the playoffs with what, a 5-game winning streak, it feels a lot different from 2012 where they went in with the 7-game winning streak, and you were like, damn, this team could really cause some problems. And
Mm-hmm.
they were doing so in that Seattle game. We all know the history of that.
Yep.
But this team's a little different. And I say
Yeah.
that because that 2012 team had a lot of talent on it. It did. They just needed to be coached.
Mm-hmm.
This team is devoid of talent in some key areas. And it's not to throw anybody under the bus or knock anything. They've had a great season. I actually tweeted that out during the game. I have to when Alameda dropped the pass,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to just be irate,
Yep.
but then I had to tell myself, is Alameda really a number two receiver?
Hell no.
He's not. And
Hell
that's
no.
not knocking him. He's a pro. He's very good at what he does,
Mm-hmm.
but he's a third receiver or a fourth receiver on really good football teams.
Yep.
And that's where I think the fan base, feels good that this team made the playoffs, as they should. They won 12 games. They've set the bar so high in the first year for what they have to do going forward. But clearly, you can see on the back end, on defense, they don't have ball hawks. They don't have
They're
guys that
not.
can track footballs. We've seen this all year long, but they give you maximum effort, and they're great tacklers and physical players. But once you start getting the playmakers involved into
Mhm.
this ingredient on both sides of the ball, whether it's a back that can take it to the house on any given play, whether it's another receiver to help Terry out, complement Terry, so teams that can't bottle him up, a tight end, who can get some yards after the catch. Those are the type of things, Rio, that you and I have been talking about all year long,
Mhm.
that is identified, that when you get the proper horses to play with Jaden, you're going to really see how good that kid is. And right now it's not there. They clearly got there because of a culture and structure that's in the building that everybody played off of, and it got them to 12 wins. So you have to give credit where credit is due.
You
But
do.
from a talent standpoint, they're devoid of talent.
Hell yeah, because if you take Terry McLaurin and middle-aged Zach Ertz out the equation, you got
It's
Zacchaeus for
bad.
five. You got Zacchaeus for 500 yards and 3 touchdowns. Noah Brown for 400 and some change, 1 touchdown. Uh, De'Ami Brown for 300 yards, 1 touchdown. Luke McCaffrey for 168, no touchdowns. That type of receiving room is not going anywhere in this league. And not to mention versus Dallas, they had us beaten about every categoristic except fourth down conversion. They had us in total yard, passing yard, rushing yard, time of possessions. They had the ball for 20 minutes. They ran 20 more plays than Washington, 75 to 55. I love the trick play. Cliff dialed it up. Not sure why we pulled that out in week 18 versus Dallas, but it might have been a sense of desperation because the offense wasn't going anywhere fast on Sunday. We got to start with this. Why is Washington getting nothing from the run game? Excited to get Eckler back. I'm glad we have him back. We're going to need him, especially in the passing game versus Tampa Bay, because we know the looks Todd Bowles is going to send this offense a back that can catch a check down or to keep the defense on their heels is something Washington desperately needs. But we're not getting much of anything from Brian Robinson in the rushing attack.
Well, this is I'm glad you bring this up. And again, everyone knows that we have hard conversations on when we do this on Tuesdays.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's clear that Washington's backfield is probably the most vision less backfield in the league.
Yep.
They run hard, they run north south, but when your offensive line is struggling at times, which the way this offensive line, because they've been banged up quite a bit
Mm-hmm.
over the last 6, 7 weeks of the season, the back half of this season, this offensive line has not played like it did the first half, and that's because of the injuries and Biadasz is in and out.
Biotish is a
Bringing
killer,
in
man.
Dieter and Coleman, has rookie moments, then he has great moments.
Mm-hmm.
Lucas has had to move to the other side of the field because Andrew Wiley's been hurt.
A lot of
I mean,
shuffling.
Allegretti's been in and out. So you've just had so many injuries that, when your offensive line can't be cohesive, what you need is you need a back that has vision. You need a back that can create things on
Yep.
their own.
Mm-hmm.
And Washington doesn't have that. They have backs that are system backs. And that's, again, people may take that harsh, but it is what it is.
Yep.
If you put Saquon in this offense, as your running back, if you put Jahmyr Gibbs behind this line, they're going to make things happen that aren't there for them. Well, the backs that Washington have, they need clear open lanes to hit in order to get to a next level, in order to, stress a defense. So for my money, I think that because the offensive line is nicked up and banged up, you're seeing some of the inefficiencies in the backfield.
Mhm.
And it's not anything that's going to be fixed overnight. It's something that has to be affixed through the draft and via free agency this offseason.
Yep, ability to create. That's the important thing I want to focus on that you just said. Not all running backs have that ability. Some running backs only have the ability to run when the Red Sea parts in front of them. And you can't have that. Like it can't be all manufactured by the offensive line, man. Good running backs, starting quality running backs in this league can make on their own. It's not always going to be there. You're going to have a plan B, sometimes even a plan C, and we don't have anyone with the capabilities right now. Like it's a problem to me when the running back with the best vision is the fourth running back on the roster, and that's
I,
Chris Rodriguez.
I was just about to say, to me, the most complete back on the roster is Chris Rodriguez. He runs hard. He gets to his spots quickly. There's no dancing. He's just very decisive. And to me, I think when you look at even Austin Eckler's, we know his best games
Mm-hmm.
are, when he gets the ball out on the edges,
Yep.
when he's catching the ball in between the tackles, he's more decisive at times. But again, they just don't have a home run threat in the backfield. And, in today's NFL, with the way offenses are being played, I mean, you can look in Cincinnati. They got rid of Joe Mixon, and people were like, "What are they doing?" And you see Pace Brown,
Exactly.
look at what he can do.
Mm-hmm.
So you need guys that can get to the second tier of a defense and stress them. And I think that's something Washington clearly will address in the offseason.
Yep, I think in the top 100 picks, a running back will be drafted, and the plan will be to start that running back. I just don't see what advantageous game plan we have in which our running backs have 3 carries for 12 yards, 5 carries for 10 yards, and then the quarterbacks 4 for 27, Mariota 5 for 56. That's not a world where we're going to probably win a game when that's the case, because at that point your offense has to become one dimensional. It's passing every down, and we don't have the horses in the wide receiver room to do that right now. So let's move our conversation over to the quarterback. Jaden Daniels, like, let's call it what it was. He was not able to be effective at all. He didn't do much of anything versus the
His worst
Cowboys.
game.
Yeah,
That was
definitely his worst game we've seen. He was completely neutralized. Micah Parsons ended a whole drive to start the game, which is not necessarily on 5, but Dallas has had Jaden bottled up both times they've played us so far, better than anybody we've seen on the schedule. And typically, you think the second time we see someone that we have their number the second time. Even Cliff was even in his bag, and we still weren't able to get much done offensively. They pulled him at halftime. He said there was leg soreness. From 1 to 10, how concerned should our fans be about Jaden's legs?
one. I mean, it was just, it wasn't working. And I think they saw the circumstances and they saw the scoreboard too, saying Chicago was up.
I think they might have got a ticker update that said Jordan Love was knocked out of that other game and said, you know what?
Listen, absolutely. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we have no shot if Jaden doesn't play in a game.
Mm-hmm.
So, Marcus Mariota, for what he did and he came in, he gave him some juice. He gave him life,
Mm-hmm.
gave him some veteran leadership. And he saw some things what Dallas was doing. And I think that those are the adjustments that I think Cliff would have made in the second half if they had kept Jaden in. But you clearly see the game plan was let the quarterbacks just take off. And you don't want to have to risk that with Jaden. Let Marcus do that. He did it well. So kudos to everyone involved in that game plan change. But yeah, man, I thought for the most part, Rio, that Dallas did something that I go back to that Baltimore Ravens game when we were up in Baltimore, and I'll never forget, sitting up there and I'm on the field and I'm like, they're literally having Roquan Smith do nothing today but stand there in the middle of the field and
Mm-hmm.
watch Jaden.
And babysit Jaden. Yep.
Absolutely. So defenses that have those kind of linebackers and edge rushers that have speed, what they do is they keep Jaden in the middle of the field. So everything that he's doing is literally, in front of them. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's given Washington some problems with defenses that can do that. Tampa doesn't really strike me as that type of team. You go back to the first game where, Jaden ran on them pretty effectively. I think he had 88 yards in that game, if I'm not mistaken. So, that's something that could help Washington. But I think in this game against Dallas, man, it wasn't working for him. Take him out, let him watch a little bit, and hopefully you can get out of town with a victory, which they did.
That's what I thought. Just get him out of there. We could probably Marcus can probably handle this one going forward, and that's what you expect. That should be the expectation. I call a good backup quarterback is the greatest spare tire you can get for your vehicle. It's the greatest donut tire you can get. They can get you back from plan B to plan A, but you don't want to have to depend on them for a long period of time because a backup is still a backup. They're not a starter for a reason. Marcus came in twice this year in relief for Jaden Daniels, ended up with 344 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks, and a 131 passer rating on the season. Shout out to Marcus for holding it down because I know fans were talking crazy on his name in the preseason. I kept telling them they don't care about what Jeff Driscoll and Sam Hartman are doing. They brought in Marcus for a reason, for leadership purposes, and for his archetype. He's the same archetype of quarterback as Jaden Daniels, even though Jaden's more of the sports car version of that archetype. But
Right.
we always knew he was going to be the backup. When called upon, he did what he had to do. We don't want to have to go into a playoff game starting Marcus Mariota. So get 5 out the game. Marcus is able to make it happen with his legs. Their game plan had to switch a little bit. He was finding things in the passing game. He clutches it and goes down and throws a beautiful back corner fade to Terry with 6 minutes on the clock. The time management wasn't the crispiest on that drive, but Washington got it done late.
Yeah, I mean they did what they were supposed to do, and again, you everything you just said about Marcus is dead on. He's the ultimate professional. And for my money, I think the times he's hit the field this year for Washington, he's played himself into some consideration for a team that may have to draft a young quarterback that may, not want to put the quarterback out there right away. It could be very similar to a Sam Darnold situation in Minnesota where, they drafted J.J. McCarthy, and if he would have outperformed Sam Darnold, which it looked like he was when he got injured, it could have been, the same kind of situation. So Mariota's going to get some looks from some teams that need a veteran that could come in from, the first couple of weeks of the season and play next year. But for the most part, this was a football game that showed that Washington has enough. They have just enough to find a way to win games and will themselves to victories at the end. And that's going to be big, Rio, come playoff time, because those games are probably going to be tough football games, close football games, and a team that's used to winning, on the road, the team that's used to winning in the last drive of a game, what Washington is, it should always make them feel like they're going to be in the game. But again, you are now stepping up in competition, and we've
Oh,
seen all year
significantly.
when
Mm-hmm.
they've stepped up in competition, some things haven't worked out. So it'll be interesting, man. But you got to give them credit for finding a way to close out the Cowboys in Dallas, to get that 12th win, something that I'm sure you thought you'd never see in your
Oh
lifetime.
my God.
That was big.
Feels amazing. 12 wins feels phenomenal. Like even you didn't say 12. You said 10 or 11. Like 12-5 in year one is absurd. How about Terry McLaurin on that last drive? His hands were not working for a while on Sunday. Then on the final drive of the game, Terry hopped up out of bed, turned his hands on, looked in the mirror and said, "What's up?" Caught the game winner on Deron Bland's head top to win the game, hit him with the scary Terry celebration and a peekaboo after, and he kept that ball with him because that was for the franchise single season touchdown record. 13th touchdown of the season, just under 1,100 yards. 80 something. Like, shout out to Terry McLaurin on a wonderful season. And this is what we wanted to see out of Terry now that he has a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, we've been saying it all year.
Mm-hmm.
People got mad early when we said, is he a true franchise number one elite receiver?
Mm-hmm.
I said it. I said it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I didn't say he wasn't. I said, is he? You said, we know what it is when you see it.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're going to get an opportunity to see if he can be one,
Mm-hmm.
because the numbers have shown He's caught passes from all these different quarterbacks, and he's accumulated numbers. But we wanted to see him be a difference maker as far as like wins and losses, as
Yeah.
far as, your best corner on him and he's killing your best corner. And you're right. The fact that he has a legit elite quarterback has elevated Terry's game. There's
Mm-hmm.
no questions about it. And Terry is playing like an elite receiver, an elite one alpha receiver. But, I still want to see like the catch he made at the end of the game with his hands. I
Mm-hmm.
want to see those catches because let's face it, Terry's a body catcher. We know that.
Yep, the bandit.
Yeah, that he's the best body catcher in
In the
football,
league.
in
Yep.
the league. Make no
Mm-hmm.
questions, debate about it. But
Yeah.
now to make that catch with his hands at the end of the game
Ooh, hoo, hoo, hoo.
just goes to show you he still has another ceiling that he can hit.
Here's another gear.
Which is scary. It's
Mhm.
scary because if you can get to another, even a higher level, now you start to put yourself in the conversation after. To me, it's Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, and then there's the other receivers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Terry could have a chance to move up to that number 3, guys from a production and what he's bringing to the table. And if you're saying that kid is the number 3 receiver in the NFL, then I can't. What more do you want from him at this point? Great catch, broke the record. Congratulations to him. And
Baller.
now you got to take it into the playoffs now.
Yep. You couldn't think of a more deserving guy to have that record because he's been our strongest soldier for so long. There are weeks where I think he gets kind of taken out of the game plan, and I can't have that because those are not typical occurrences of an alpha number 1 receiver. There have been a couple games this year where he was under 20 yards. I think there was about 3 or 4 this year.
But you know what, Rio? Not to cut you off, but I will say this in fairness to Terry.
Mm-hmm.
Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. On the other side of them is
There's
Jordan,
an actual receiver.
is a Pro Bowl caliber receiver
Mm-hmm.
on the other side. So
Mm-hmm.
T Higgins and Addison. Listen, man, if you put either one of those guys opposite Terry's numbers are going to keep increasing.
It's gonna give him more opportunities because
Absolutely.
there's a bunch of meh at wide receiver behind Terry. That's why at times, if Terry's taken out of the game, we don't have much to offer you other than put the cape on Jaden Daniels and save us because, what are we doing? We're going to Jamison Crowder. We're going to Alameda Zacchaeus, which leads me to another. I got 2 things I would love for you or someone at the park to ask at these media sessions this week. I
Okay.
would like when Cliff Kingsbury or Dan Quinn comes to the podium, can someone please ask what is KJ Osborne's purpose on this team? Because we claim this man and he's just taking up a roster spot at this point.
Been hurt.
So he's hurt because they haven't told us really what's going on with him. Is he injured or is he a healthy scratch each week?
I gotta get off camera.
Or just give us something politically correct. Just what is going on? Why did we claim him? What are we doing?
Yeah, man. Let me just say this. I'm in agreement with you. Like they've pretty much to me been healthy scratches.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And he might have something that's nagging him here or there, but it's not something that I think would keep him out of a football game. To answer your question,
so we're saying that KJ Osborne couldn't get on the field on a New England receiving corps that included Booty, Kendrick Bourne, and Pop Douglas, and now cannot get on the field with Alameda Zacchaeus, Crowder, Luke McCaffrey, and De'Ami Brown. That's what we're saying.
See, I think it's a comfort level of what you already have. And some of the guys took a while to come around in the system in general. Like Luke, for instance. Luke, was still learning some intricacies of the offense. Ben Sennett, tight end was as well. So now that these guys have kind of caught up now and they know what is expected of them and where to be on the field, you're bringing in someone off the street. And to invest a lot into him, to make him come in and what we all thought, I thought he was coming in and was going to be, replacing Noah Brown.
New Noah Brown. Exactly.
Literally. Yeah. It just hasn't happened. And I don't know if it ever will happen. I don't know. I do think Alameda, outside of the gaff, he had, the just the horrific drop. He didn't even drop it. It's like his hands touched each other and the
Yeah.
ball hit
Second
the
week in a
back of
row,
his hand.
concentration drop. Second
Yeah,
week in a row.
exactly. Maybe he got caught in the lights. I don't know. But the point
Mhm.
is, he's played well enough to kind of hold the fort down as a third option in the offense at the receiver spot. But again, if anyone was expecting for KJ to come in here and get you 7, 8 catches a game, that was never the plan.
That was
Yeah,
never my
yeah, that was
expectation.
never going to happen. If he could get you two quality, move the chain type catches and maybe a touchdown here or there, because he was a touchdown producer everywhere
In
he's been,
Minnesota.
from
Hmm.
New England and back to Minnesota. He caught touchdowns, but for whatever reason, it just hasn't happened. And I think that this weekend, Rio, like I said, when I tweeted out what I tweeted out, it was the cold reality of Jaden Daniels has made everyone realize just how far off, outside of Terry and like you said, Zach, who's older, but really Jaden and Terry. After that, I don't know if there's any other skill set guy on this roster that other teams would start.
Yeah.
So in saying that, it made me understand that, yeah, we're trying to, like, fill some holes now with some putty at
Hmm.
certain areas,
Yep.
but they don't have the true brick and mortar until next year. I mean, until the off season, where they can draft a receiver, or they can get a receiver via free agency. I'd like to see them do both, actually,
Yep.
draft a guy
Both. Yep.
and pick up a nice veteran receiver. It can't be a veteran receiver though that wants to be a number one, because Terry's the number one here. It has to be someone that will be accepting of their role to be a really good number two
Oh,
that can get
hey,
you
you could be.
60
We could.
passes.
I'll take code number ones. I'll take code number ones.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
again, you get someone that's accepting that they can get 60, 70 catches and a really good offense, but
Hmm.
they're not going to be your number one option when they're looking for somebody to make the play. That's Terry.
Hmm.
And then you draft a guy that you can develop and have be out there and give you another option. So yeah, they just don't have these pieces right now. So to get back to KJ, I kind of get the feeling that you might see him Saturday night or Sunday night in Tampa. I would expect that, but what's he going to give you at this point?
I told fans not to get excited when we picked up this guy, but I definitely expected him to at least get some Noah Brown type looks and touches.
I
And
did too.
it appears that he's not good enough to get on the field. The guy's been here for a month. If he's not acclimated with the offense yet, what kind of professional are we talking about? I'm not trying to knock him. He seems like a very bright, articulate dude. I just want to understand what the purpose is at that point, because if he's not going to be playing, we might as well waive him and use a roster spot for something else, because we claim this guy for no reason at this point, because he's just another guy in the room. You're not getting snaps over Luke McCaffrey, De'Ami Brown, and Olamide Zaccheaus. What is your purpose here in this wide receiver room? And before we leave the wide receiver room, after 13 touchdowns, a career year for Terry McLaurin, his age 30 season's coming up. Is he going to ask for a little bit more change in the offseason? Is he going to ask for some more money?
I think the team should offer him more money,
Mm-hmm.
just to get it out the way. And I think, with the culture and the way they're building this team, Terry is the face
Mm-hmm.
of everything you want to accomplish as a player, as a person off the field. He's great. But more importantly, he's the blueprint of the Adam Peters, Dan Quinn player, gritty, hardcore, determined person, but self-made. And I
Yep.
think they want more self-made players as opposed to prima donnas that, they're not going to sign a free agent that's going to come in and disrupt the locker room. I'm a Penn State guy. I love Micah Parsons.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see that being a fit here. I just don't. When guys have podcasts and doing things like that, I don't know if that's the type of nature that they want here. However, I will say this: he and Dan Quinn have a great relationship, and you and I both know teams are going to, players are going to be lining up now to see if Washington's interested in them.
And
Because
yep.
they
And
see.
I think we have the culture that could let one of those type of guys. We can let a couple assholes in the building. I think we got a culture strong enough that could survive it.
I do too, but my thing is, man, if you asking me right now, from not to stray and get off topic,
No, you're good.
but a guy that I'm targeting with all the money that we have, all the money that Washington has, I got to keep remembering not to say we anymore, but with all the money that Washington has, and then the draft capital as well, I'm throwing all my money. If there's one player that I'm going after and I'm putting all my money into it, it's not a receiver, it's not a corner, it's not a linebacker, it's Max Crosby. I'm putting my money into the bank to get that edge rusher to come to Washington. I think he's the perfect fit for their culture and what they're trying to do. But that's just me. That's a whole nother subject.
I ain't mad at that at all, bro. Max Crosby, Garrett Wilson, if he's on his way out of New York, that one particularly entices me because I loved him. He was my favorite receiver coming out. And that one's different because that guy's still on his rookie contract and 24 years old. So
but you could get a bouquet.
Out of Ohio State.
From Ohio State. All those Ohio State receivers kind of similar, rough, rugged players like Terry, and then you could get him and groom him. I do like Garrett, but I think Garrett on a really good football team's a 1. I truly believe that.
Yeah, and I will take that here. 2 Buckeyes, 2 ones, share the glory. I'm sorry, at age 30, Terry, you can get number 1s over here, my guy.
That's true. That's true. That's
more the merrier. I want it to be a problem that we have too much talent in the receiver room, because even if we go acquire a big name receiver, we shouldn't be done. We should be signing secondary guys like a Nick Westbrook-Akine. We should be drafting guys on day 2, day 3 of the draft. We need a complete purging of the wide. It needs to be Terry, Luke, maybe somebody else like one of the other guys like Diami or Olamide. But I want those guys to round out the wide receiver room. You are the last receiver on the roster. I don't want to have to start and depend on guys like Olamide Zaccheaus, Diami Brown, Luke McCaffrey going forward. So there's a ton of options for Washington going forward in the 2025 offseason. And last thing, so we close out the offense. I want to know what Cliff was saying on the sideline. I ain't never seen Cliff hyped and slapping hands, and I ain't never seen Cliff turned up like that. You saw Cliff on the sideline after that touchdown?
I did. And, it's vindication for him because you don't think he hears people saying, like, I have a good friend of mine, he watches your show all the time, my boy Perry, and he's always like, I want Cliff out of here, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, bruh, like,
no.
Do you see the numbers? Do you see what this offense has done this year with not a lot of talent? I mean, we all know that they've got the most important position in the building covered now for the foreseeable future in Jade. That changes everything. We get that. But now you got to get him some more dogs to go along with Terry. That he can look like, not just the rookie of the year, but if they get him with some more pieces, now we're talking about this guy being a legit MVP candidate in year 2. So Cliff, man, of course he was excited about that because it's a win. You get 12 wins. You get an important part of your organization, a record, some more money. And I think for him, it's an adjustment that was made. That call that was made. I don't know if they throw that in the first half of that football game. I don't. And then for Marcus to make the throw, it's just an accumulation of everything that he's touched this year that's done well. I'm a Cliff fan, and I know people have been hard on him. But man, you got to understand, literally, when you rolling out there every week with a 55, 60% offense from a talent standpoint, and yet you're walking out with an 85, 90% grade each week. I mean, come on, man. What more do you want from the guy?
You get extra credit on your score for real. You get graded on a curve. You get graded on a significant curve because the quarterback, upper echelon. The running back room, bottom half of the league. The wide receiver room, bottom 5. Bottom 5.
Outside of Terry, they're listen, and again, I got to go in the locker room tomorrow. I mean, no offense to anybody. But you remove Terry from that wide receiver room.
5-win football team.
I could tell you right now, Ohio State's wide receiver room is better than ours if you take Terry off the field.
You take
right now, a
you,
college team.
you take Terry off the field, like scoring 20 points would be a task for this team
It really
regularly.
would, man, because now teams would literally gang up on Jaden,
Yep.
and there would be no lanes to run or none of that. And you know, you have to give credit where credit is due. A lot of the catches that Terry's made this year are sheer will and determination. Some of them
Mhm.
were great throws by Jaden. Don't get me wrong,
Yep.
but those body catches that you and I talk about frequently, no
Mhm.
one else can do that in the league like that. So
Yep.
you know, if you can get Terry open, if you can get Terry more deep routes, because on the other side of the field is another burner that people have to respect. It's going to open up this offense even more. So for Cliff, man, to show that kind of emotion, good for him because it's been deserved. You know, you might hear his name surface. You know, I'll tell you this: if they go to Tampa, if we go down Sunday and we come back from Tampa with a dub, you're going to hear Cliff's name all of a sudden really start to surface for some of these coaching jobs. It's not going to be a lot because some of these coaches are being retained,
Mhm.
but you know you might hear Chicago. You very well could.
It's a
Um,
nasty year for openings too.
yeah, you very well could. You could hear Cliff in Jacksonville. You could hear, you know, I don't think you're going to hear him in New York with the Jets. I do think Rex Ryan's going to get that, but if it were, you could do that, and let's just say you could bring Marcus with you. You know,
Mhm.
somebody that knows what you're trying to do, who's shown success this year.
Yep.
Obviously, you don't want to subtract from this team here, but you know, I think he's done well enough to deservingly be interviewed for another coaching job.
The guy has come in here in collaboration with our rookie quarterback, took a bottom two offense and made it a top 3 to 5 offense in 1 year with a
Yeah.
deficiency of talent at certain positions. Like Zach Ertz had a season, 60 plus catches, 650 yards, 7 touchdowns. How many teams Zach Ertz starting on in 2024?
You know that a
Handful, maybe.
lot. And you know what? You go back to, you know how we've been pulling receipts recently. You
Mhm.
go back to one of our very first shows and
Mhm.
you asked me, you said who is on the offense
Mhm.
benefits the most, you know, was going to have a big year. You know, who do we need to have a big year?
Yep.
You know, this year. And we both said Zach Ertz.
Zach Ertz. Yep. I said 700 yards, five
That's what
plus
you said.
touchdown. He got the touchdowns and almost got the yards, man.
Yeah, I mean, because you know, a young quarterback's best friend is a running game and a tight end.
Yep.
And for the most part, they had the running game until last month or so of the season, maybe last half of the season. But
Mhm.
Zach Ertz has been productive. And to be honest, Zach Ertz has been playing better as the
Yep.
season progressed.
Sure has.
You know, so his numbers have gotten stronger each game, and they're going to need that clearly on Sunday night in Tampa.
Moving over to the defensive side of the ball, it was very head scratching at times. I was looking a little. Fan base was they was off with Witt's head on Sunday, which I try to calm them down from that. Like one, none of our coaches are getting fired. First of all, two, they're doing a hell of a job with what they have. Letting Trey Lance look comfortable as a quarterback when he's looked like a bust every time we've seen him play regular season football, that was a bit concerning. 20 of 34, 244, didn't throw a touchdown, didn't throw a pick. We had some opportunities to catch some, but he was hitting wide receivers wide open. And other than 2 sacks, he wasn't being pressured much on Sunday. How do you think the defense fared?
Not good at all. And you know, they held early in the game. You know, Dallas was moving right down the field, up and down, and Washington would hold. But for the most part, man, like you said, Trey Lance was their number 3 quarterback. You know, you just be glad Cooper Rush didn't start. You know, he was too comfortable for my liking, Rio. I mean, they didn't dial up any pressure until later in the game, and it worked.
Mhm.
And then I also have to say this too. You know, it might not be a very favorable thing to say, but I kind of get the impression from what I see since John Allen's come back,
Uh-oh.
it just
Uh-oh.
seems like something's a little off on the
Mhm.
defensive line. They're not getting any kind of pressure up the middle like they
None.
were before. I don't know if it's just the combination of him and Duran don't play the same together as does Duran and Jerzon. I don't know, but it just seemed like they were moving a lot faster over the past previous weeks. And all of a sudden, you're seeing a little less of Sheldon Day, who I thought was playing really good
Really
football.
good football.
Another body is another body, healthy body, which is great. And if it's a Pro Bowl player like John Allen, you would think that would be great. But I do think that it's thrown off the chemistry a little bit. And now, if you're not getting any pressure from Dante Fowler or something from Dorrance Armstrong on the outside, there is no pass rush at all.
Unless
And
we blitz. That's not good.
yeah, and that is absolutely, if there ever was a quarterback that will slice you up if he's not pressured, it's
Baker.
Baker. And Baker is the one quarterback. If you can get in his face a lot, you can get some turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not pressuring him, hence week 1 of the season,
Yeah.
he's going to kill you.
And the thing was, we were getting to him. We just weren't getting home or forcing incompletions.
Yeah, and he was extending drives with his legs on that first game. I am concerned. I really am, because Dallas, who did they line up, man? I mean, you had Tolbert and Terrapin, killing you. And I'm like, come on, man. Like, this can't be happening right now. You should not have basically teams backups and third stringers, and at quarterback, like, killing you. That's the best I've ever seen Trey Lance look as a pro.
That is the best.
And he was missing throws, don't get me
Oh
wrong.
my God, he left a couple touchdowns on the field.
He absolutely did. But he was not pressured. He was able to sit back and survey the field. And then on top of that, I noticed with the corners, they were playing the corners off the receivers quite a bit.
Like 11 yards off the ball.
That's what I'm saying. And they're backing up, still backpedaling before the ball is hiked. And I'm like, you're just conceding 5 yards every single time. And every player you saw backing away from his receiver, they would hike the ball and quick snap, quick count, boom, hit those receivers on some out routes. And it just, like, what are we doing here? What's going on? So the defense, the only reason I haven't thrown my hands up to Joe Witt Jr. is because I believe in what he's trying to accomplish. I just know that he doesn't have the pieces in place yet to accomplish what he wants. And all you have to do is look at the team on the other side of the field and what he was doing with those guys and Dan Quinn was doing with those guys. Washington needs a lot more athletes and a lot more speed on their defense in order to turn it into what Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. wants.
Frankie Louisville ended the game with about 9 total tackles, but have you also noticed over the last month of football, he hasn't been doing very much. Is he okay? Is he 100%?
I think he's fine. I think what's happening is teams are game planning for Frankie, which is a testament to him. I thought he was having a Pro Bowl year. I thought, he shouldn't have been an alternate. I really did. I thought he should have been their third Pro Bowler. But in saying that, teams have noticed what he can do, and they're bringing a lot of plays away from his side of the football. It's going to the opposite side. Wherever he lines up, they're sending a tight end over that way to also get another block on him. So he's earned his respect. He's earned it on the field, and now teams are countering him. So he's just got to find a way to break through. He did, like you said, 9 tackles, but you got to get the interception, Frankie. You got to hold on to those. Those are the type of things that hopefully with more ball hawks and playmakers around, it'll start to happen for him next year too.
Yeah, those are the type of things that also matter when it comes to all pro type conversation. You got to catch that. And we're talking about a guy that early December was on pace for 100 tackles and 10 sacks, doesn't get to 100 tackles or 10 sacks. He stays at 8 and he falls a tackle short of a 100 tackle season. Doesn't help that we have a tackle machine next to him and Bobby Wagner, but at his big age, he also had a great season. So shout out to Bobby Wagner as well. The cornerback position. Benjamin St-Juste, what we're seeing every time he's on the field is he's going to be targeted not only by other teams' quarterbacks, but by referees, because that second pass interference, not the drive extender on third down, that was a penalty. What more is Benji to do than to get a pass interference in a time where we need to get off the field and keep the chains moving for the other team? But that second one, his arm was around the receiver, but he didn't really interfere with him.
Nah,
That was a rep.
that,
That was
yeah,
a reputation call.
yeah, that was clearly a reputation call. It's
Mhm.
like when Benji comes on the field, a line judge. I mean, you can just
Watch
see
him. Watch him.
they're watching him the whole time. And yeah, I mean, yeah, was it pass interference by rule? It was,
Mhm.
but we've seen much more egregious behavior from corners covering wide receivers in the NFL, and they do not get those calls. So yeah, but I think what you see with Benji is he just has this look on him like his confidence is shot,
Yep.
like he doesn't trust himself anymore because he's thinking they're going to call something on him too. And that's his game. He's grabby. He's always been that way.
Yep.
He was that way at Minnesota in college. He was a grabby guy that when they drafted him, I said, this guy's going to be just like Breland. He's going to be a grabby guy. Breland was grabby when he came from Clemson.
Mhm.
So this is just the way it is, but their corner room outside of Mikey Sanders still, there's a lot to be desired going on out there. I mean, Noah struggled at times to just keep pace with this guy,
Mhm.
and I think that you can see, if Lattimore comes back healthy, and I don't even mean this weekend, I mean next year, you
Mhm.
have your number one corner, you have your ace corner covering what you need, and
Mhm.
you have a really good number two corner in Mikey. And now you can bring in another free agent or two, and you can draft another corner or two,
Yep.
to really round out that room. So yeah, man, the corners are struggling right now. Mikey still gives up plays, but he makes more plays than he gives up, which I'm cool with.
Yeah, he is a high energy, high effort guy, and he puts his helmet in there and he gets active physical wise. He's very physical corner.
Very.
Honestly, I'm not going to bat an eye if Marshon and Mikey are the only corners that return. Just like I want the wide receiver room exercised, I would not be mad if the cornerback room did the same. We need Marshon Lattimore this week against Mike Evans. Let's turn the book to this playoff game. They got Washington under the bright lights. They put us in the Sunday night football spot against 40 touchdown Baker Mayfield in a rematch of week 1 at Raymond James Stadium versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. How do you feel about this matchup going into Sunday night?
I think Washington can win the football game. I do believe that.
Agreed.
I like this was the matchup that I wanted. I mean, obviously, I wanted Atlanta if you really could have said it, but realistically, you knew it was coming down to the Rams and the Buccaneers, who they would have to go to. We talked about it last week. LA would have been cool, just personal reasons. But the whole
Yeah.
point is, from a matchup standpoint, this is the best thing that could have happened to Washington. And this isn't to knock Tampa or disrespect them because they're a dangerous football team. If they get past Washington, Tampa's a dangerous football team. Trust me
Mhm.
when I tell you. But I just think from a sheer matchup standpoint, you played them already in week 1. It was by far Washington's worst game. This Cowboys game was right there too. Yeah, I just think that those were the first game and the last game for Washington were the two worst games of the year. But that first game against Tampa, I still saw some things. I remember the touchdown that was called back because they called, the clip legal block in the back by De'Ami Brown. I remember those type plays
Yep.
that just kept them from getting any kind of momentum. But I also remember late in the game, Jaden scoring 2 touchdowns
Sure do.
and just kind of
His
showing that I'm
legs.
going to quit. I'm going to keep going. But
Mhm.
more importantly, Rio, the one thing I remember more than anything else about that Tampa game wasn't what happened on the field. It was what happened off the field. And it happened as the game was winding down. And I'm standing in that tunnel, and
Peters.
Peters is right there. And Adam Peters' face was as red as that shirt you have on. He stormed back in the locker room, and it showed me right there this is not going to be the norm anymore. We're
Yep.
not going to accept these kind of losses and have excuses. And so for them to be able to have this parallel where they're going back to the scene of the crime, to kind of fix some things, exercise some demons. I
Mhm.
think they can win this football game. I truly do. But they're going to have to be able somehow to be able to find a way to run the football to keep
Yep.
Tampa off the field as well.
Yeah, if not, we're going to be getting blitz looks all day. We're going to be getting heavy Tampa 2 defense and some cover zero, and they're going to be on fives as for the day. But for us to win this game, we need our number one cornerback on the field. You're around the team every week. What is your confidence level that Marshon Lattimore touches the field on Sunday?
Super high. I think he plays. I think he starts. And for my money, I would be shocked if he didn't. And I'm going to go even further. I'd be shocked because of who they're playing.
Mhm.
We know his relationship or lack thereof, you know,
Oh, he gets
with,
charged up.
with Mike Evans. You
Yeah.
know, those guys are respect the hell out of each other. Make no
Mhm.
mistake about it. But on the field, they are almost like sworn enemies.
Oh,
You
yeah,
know,
they're ops. They're big ops on Sunday.
yeah, absolutely. So I think that kind of gets your adrenaline going. And as I said to you last week, I'm not saying that, he's going to play and be totally effective all throughout the game, but I can assure you he's going to give it a shot. And that's all you want. And I think that when they decided to keep him out of that football game a couple weeks ago, where he did, the Eagles game, where he was battling A.J. Brown tough and then the hamstring got him. I know what I saw in the locker room after the game. And I know what he said. And, people are like, oh, that's different from just walking and stuff. Nah, I kind of got the impression that if it were the Super Bowl, he would still be out there.
Okay.
And now here we go. It's playoff time. I expect him to play, and I expect for him to be productive, actually.
So we're not thinking that was a re-aggravation of the hamstring. It was more precautionary just to keep him right for the playoff.
Oh, no, he tweaked it for sure,
He
but it
tweaked.
wasn't a full blown tweak that's like, I guess a comparison for me would be the Jaden rib injury.
Okay.
If it were the Super Bowl, Jaden probably would have still played in the Carolina game.
Oh,
Ironically,
100%. At playoffs, I think he played. First round of the playoff, I think he played.
that's what I'm saying. These are the
Mhm.
injuries that guys have. Yeah, Marshon has a hamstring problem that they're gonna clearly, dissect in the off season and get it right so that he's ready to go next year. But right now, is he 100%? No, not even close. But 80% of him, 75% of him is better than what they have, man.
Yeah, was significant.
Yeah, so that's, if you get him out there 75% on Mike Evans, it gives you a better chance than getting a healthy 20% talent guy on Mike Evans. And I'm not saying that with Mikey, because Mikey is like in my grade for him right now would probably be like a 79, 80, maybe. But when Marshon's healthy, we're talking about a 90 plus corner, and him at half speed is still better than most.
Mikey better put his big boy pants on too, because Jalen McMillan is hooping. Their rookie out of Washington, one of
He's
Penix's
their number
boys.
one now to me.
Yeah, he's hoop. He's become a touchdown machine. They better put their big boy pants on with that guy, because Mikey was getting baptized week one. Chris Godwin was on the field, first time in the league. He was in that slot. He's a lot more comfortable, so I expect to see him come for that lick back this weekend. Switching to the other side of the ball. Please, Lord, tell me Tyler Biotish can go this week.
I think he's gonna go. I do. I think
What is it? His ankle?
it's ankle. I
Okay.
but listen, I think for the first time, this is just my own little bold prediction.
Okay.
I think we're going to see the starting offensive line against Tampa, like literally,
Like everybody back.
like everybody back across the board. And as I always say this to give myself a little bit of wiggle room, not that I feel like I need it, but put it like this. We're going to see the starting offensive line attempt to give it a go on the
Mhm.
first snap. Okay.
Okay.
Now, if it can last throughout the game, that's a whole nother story. That's
Very.
where Al Bellamy and Samantha Hawkins and the crew over there, my folks, that it's to get these guys right.
Mhm.
And they've done an incredible job all year with these injuries, but let's just face it, man. When you look at teams like Detroit, when you look at teams like Baltimore over the years, even Pittsburgh to an extent, when your style of play is a physical brand of football, the injuries are coming and there's no getting around it. You can look good doing it for 6, 7, 8 weeks, but it's a battle of attrition. And when your body starts to break down from all those hits and the physicality of your play, it's going to take its toll. And Washington was a physical football team this year, and it
Mhm.
started to take its toll in the most important positions for them, which naturally are in the trenches.
Yep, and I believe that as well. We need our full offensive line back because it's been shaky for a little bit. We're not getting that push up front, especially in the run game. Now, when you say the full offensive line, who's starting at left tackle? Is that Cornelius Lucas or Brandon Coleman?
Brandon Coleman. I
Because
mean,
he did get banged up a little bit on Sunday.
he did get banged up. Brandon's a tough kid, man. One thing you can say about Brandon, joke with him, he's like
Mhm.
big baby, man. But
Mhm.
he's a tough dude, and it's a playoff game. These are rookies that, they want to remember this moment.
Yep.
This isn't something that I think if you gave every player in that locker room, maybe with the exception of Jaden, I think if you gave them all truth serums and said, "Are you making the playoffs in your rookie year, or do you expect for this to just be a better team and showing signs of progress?" They're probably going with the latter. So the fact that they did make the playoffs, the fact that they have a chance to win the game on top of that,
Mhm.
I think anybody that can stand upright is going to give it a go.
I think so as well. And my last thing on Brandon Coleman before we move off the offensive line, has he shown you enough in year one in his rookie campaign to make you not draft a left tackle early?
Yeah, for me, I think he's shown me enough. When he was healthy, you got to
Mhm.
understand a man that size and he's a rookie, learning on top of that, learning his body as a pro, learning, who he's going up against. And he's going up against normally the best athlete on the defense on the other side of the ball consistently. I think he's had a really good rookie season. I'd give Brandon Coleman, if not a B minus for his rookie campaign. And to me, that's better than we've seen at left tackle since
In a
training.
minute, in a minute, yes.
Right. So,
Mhm.
yeah, get him healthy, get him another year of experience, get him some more weapons where he doesn't have to hold his man for 3-4 seconds.
Mhm.
Um, because there's other weapons on the skill sets. I think you have your starting left tackle for the long term. I truly believe that. I think they see that. And I think that he has every opportunity to be that, which he will be.
Please God be healthy. When he was down on Sunday, I was like, please let this be a big man break. Like he just wanted a water break or something. Need him on the field on Sunday. We're running it back from week one. Tampa is the only opponent in the 2024 season that walked us. They're the only opponent that walked us down. Every other game came down to one possession, and we had a chance in the fourth quarter. We had to score garbage time, Jaden Daniels touchdown to get it from 37-13 to 37-20. So Washington is a different team 18 weeks later. Jaden Daniels is a significantly different quarterback than he was in week one. The coaching staff has a much better grasp on what we have in the building right now. I'm not going to ask you for your result prediction or your score prediction just yet because I'm sure you got that coming later this week on your channel. But when we come back in here next week, like what are the odds you feel like we're talking about a potential divisional round matchup?
I think the odds are 50-50 right
Mm-hmm.
now. I mean, this is a pick 'em football game for
It
me. I know
is.
Tampa's favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me, Washington has their attention. There's no question about it. You're right. It's not the same team that was there week one. And again, I'll say it to the day I leave this place. So I leave this earth. That was the hottest game on record for me I've ever covered. It was just
Heat stroke.
unbearable.
Heat
It,
stroke.
it, it, it was well all throughout the game. You heard the PA announcer calling for medics to a certain area of the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
People were dropping. It was that hot, and it wasn't like some all time heat wave that came through South Florida or Tampa, Southwest Florida. It was just so hot and humid. It affected people. And I remember Bobby Wagner told me on that Wednesday, the following Wednesday at practice, it affected him. And he's never been in anything like that.
Yep.
So now guys aren't coming in there have not played in the preseason. They played a full year, and
Mm-hmm.
the expectation will be a lot better for Washington, and they should fare better. But I will say this: they better come out early. To me, in order for Washington to win this football game, they have to run the football. We know that.
You got to
and they
start
have
fast.
to jump on Tampa. They've
Hmm.
got to get a lead, man. Even if it's 3 on the first drive, I'd feel better. But
Hmm.
they can't keep trying to spot teams' points and thinking they're going to win these things at the end of games, because they will not do that in Tampa if they think that's the blueprint.
Yeah, if we come out lollygagging and we don't get a fast start, next thing you know, Baker got 14 on that board.
No, and
So,
it's over. If Tampa ever gets a 14-point lead in this game, it's over. Washington's best bet is to come in there and do what they do,
mhm,
like they were doing early in the year, jump on teams and make it a game. You go back to last year when Tampa had the Eagles, I think, in the wild
mhm.
card game, and it was a night game. They jumped on Philadelphia, and it just sucked. The Eagles were already done as a team. We know
Yep.
that. I think they went in there on like a heroic, historic losing streak.
Yeah.
But Washington, you're on the road in the playoffs. You want to take the crowd out of the game. You want to take the
Early.
home field advantage away from Tampa immediately. And
Mhm,
to me, it's make an electrifying play. Hell, if I'm Cliff, because I'm not, that's why I'm sitting here and he's in the building.
mhm, mhm.
But I may dial one up deep the first 2-3 plays of the game just to let them know we're coming today.
We're
We're
here.
not going to sit back and let you dictate to us.
I like that, man. I think we're going to have a better grasp for what Tampa Bay offers offensively and defensively. And as we sit here on Tuesday morning, I think we're going to win, man. I think we're going to win the game. I'm not ready to give out a score prediction quite yet. I think we're looking at a divisional round matchup. Don't care who it is. I think Washington's going to snap this. Our last playoff win was 19 years ago today,
It was, man. And
January 7th.
listen, man, you put me out there. You said, I can do it later in the week. Now I'm going to do it today.
Hey,
20,
talk to me.
23-21 Washington.
There we go. There we go. 23-21 Washington. You
Last
heard
second
it
field
first.
goal from Gonzalez to win it.
Last second. Oh no, you're scaring me when it's coming down to Zane Gonzalez rather than number 5. But I will take it. I don't care how they get it done. The last time we won a playoff game back in 2005, the score was 17-10. It took a defensive touchdown from Sean Taylor to get
No,
it done because our quarterback only threw for 41 yards in that game. I don't think 41 yards is gonna get it done this week late.
no. I mean, I expect him to have a 41-yard play in the pass game alone, let alone more yards. So I think this is the reason why they put this game at 8 o'clock on Sunday night, the primetime game on NBC, because
Firework.
they want the nation to see the Rookie of the Year. That's all
Mhm.
this is. And guess what? In his first playoff appearance, I think the nation's going to see, because let's face it, every time that kid's been on primetime football, you saw some stuff. I think the only game that
The
you
Eagles,
could
the
say,
only
yeah,
one.
I was going to say, the only game you could say,
Mhm.
well, yeah, he was okay. It was the Eagles game, but they still had a chance to win that game. They were up 10-6 and late in the fourth.
Yep.
So, with that said, I think this is the indoctrination of truly Jaden Daniels being not just the Rookie of the Year, but a legit MVP candidate going forward. And I think that this is going to put a lot of the country on notice that he's legit, he's real.
Mhm.
And this season wouldn't be complete for me if they didn't get a playoff win, because they've done everything else. Who
Mhm.
would have ever thought they were going to get the 11th win, let
Mhm.
alone the 12th win?
Right.
Be second in the NFC East. And had they not had a couple gaffes against the Cowboys earlier in the year in Pittsburgh, they would have been battling the Eagles, ironically, for the
Mhm.
division crown.
Yep.
So I could see Washington winning the game. I see them winning the game. I think 23-21 is going to be the score.
I like it, man. It's a superstar quarterback matchup. Baker probably feels like this kid should not be starting over me in the Pro Bowl. Like he shouldn't have been in instead of me. Baker got over 40 touchdowns this year. Renaissance year for Baker Mayfield. So there's going to be smoke coming from both sides. And this game was put at the Sunday night spot for a reason. Superstar showdown from Raymond James Stadium. Me and Lake both are calling victories. You said what, 23-21?
23-21. Washington pulls it out at the end on a last second.
Ooh, I don't care who we play. Find a way to get it done. Lake, let folks know where to find you on our way out.
I appreciate that, my friend. Yeah, you can follow me on social media, Lake Lewis Jr., on all platforms. And obviously, you can subscribe to and watch my show, my podcast, The Lake Lewis Jr. Show. You can subscribe to it on YouTube. at the Lake Lewis Jr. And then you also can subscribe to it on Apple, Spotify, iHeart if you want the audio versions. And then you can check out some stuff that I'm doing on sportsjourney.com. And then, of course, on ABC7 in DC, we do post game shows. So, yeah, lots of stuff going on, man. It's exciting times. And I do have to say this before we get off. Congratulations to you, man, because for years you and I have talked about you not really knowing what it would be like to see this team win and see how really close the fan base can be.
Yep.
I'm sure you had some of your best relationships ever this year, as far as just watching you and some of your friends that have supported this team for years, just being able to finally just bask and glow in the fact that they're winning games.
Oh man, it's glorious, man. Unless weather doesn't permit it, me and a few of my boys, we're gonna be getting together to watch the game on Sunday. Jalen and a few other people. It's been a joy to watch this team and to know at the back of your mind, this is the worst version we're going to see of five
Right.
and of this roster. So let's get this thing going forward into the future, man. Thank you as always. This is our first show of the year. It will not be our last. Playoff football Sunday night from Raymond James Stadium. Commander Rio, Mr. Lake Lewis Jr., we are signing off for right now. Talk soon, y'all.